Everyone, I'm back with another new guest today, Nancy from Sound Credit Union. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, firstly, for agreeing to join the podcast on a Monday morning. I was like, okay. So that's the first thing she's doing on a Monday morning. That too, I think 8:26 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, okay. She really loves me, right? Otherwise, no one does a Monday morning podcast. I've never done a Monday morning podcast. So Nancy is based out of one of my favorite cities, Seattle. Nancy has close to 3 decades of experience in technology leadership. Currently, she is a CIO of Sound Credit Union with around close to 3 decades experience. I would say majorly in credit unions. She had held leadership roles in BECU in Boeing a few years back. Now she leads all things technology and electronic digital channels out here in Sound Credit Union, right? Apart from her work, now Nancy is also really passionate about one thing that's very close to us, and and hence we gel up really well, is her focus on STEM focus for women right now, right? And she's done a bunch of things across that, and she continues to support STEM education for women, and that's one of her cornerstone of her interest, right? So I thought I'd just we have been introduction about Nancy. In case I've missed out on anything, please feel free to add on.
Thank you. All right, no, you did a really good job. That covers my credit union history and sort of how I got started in IT at credit unions. 29 years, I think, with 15 at one, 5 at another, and now almost 5 at this credit union. So enjoying it here and enjoying teaching STEM and trying to reach out to others that might want to start in IT.
She's one of the veterans of credit unions, spent 30 plus years in credit unions. I mean, I'm 31, right? Just to put to context, I mean, imagine the amount of wisdom and wealth of experience she has, specifically in technology. And doing technology 30 years back, Nancy, it wasn't easy, right? It was just handpicked individuals who understood technology, what was there. I mean, absolute respect for doing that since then. Obviously, your journey is not very similar as a lot of people because you've been doing STEM since STEM was not sexy. Let's put it that way, right? So, so what keeps you going?
Oh boy. Uh, on a daily basis, it's really finding out where I'm going to serve people the best. I believe technology is service delivery. It's not about invention necessarily and whiz bang stuff. It is making sure the business can run. So, what energizes me is serving my business customers, but also my staff and team. And then on a personal level, it's just whatever I can do to nurture and help people along. That's what really gives me energy. And aside from that, definitely on the tech side, anything I can learn or do and be new and fun, that helps too. But really, it's about service at the end of the day, and then seeing the members or the consumers wherever you're working, be a customer of that service and get something from it.
Makes sense. Interesting. So, I mean, I did an average job doing an introduction about yours, but we want to hear about your journey now. Now, again, I'm just piggybacking on the same fact that spending 30 plus years in STEM, in technology, that's a pretty long time, right? So, if we want to learn more about your journey, there was a very short stint when she used to work for the city of Seattle. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So, we want to hear about your journey, Nancy. How did you start, and what has been your journey so far?
Sure. So my journey did not start really in technology. I thought I would be doing interior design, living in the mountains somewhere, right? So when I started at the professional world, I immediately started globbing onto how things work. You know, the old story of take it apart. I didn't like taking things apart, but I did like figuring out and asking why 5,000 times. So definitely an affinity to tech. Started to run a call center instead of be answering the phones after just a few months. That was at law firms, and then went into phone systems for law firms for years, put in the big ones all across the West Coast, and then went into credit unions. And that was sort of when the nurturing aspect, I guess, of technology came in, because I knew all about being part of a credit union, but not about giving back. So 15 years at BECU, learning tech, learning how to get from a large core provider to individual systems, best of breed systems, did hundreds of projects there through the project management group that I stood up, and then went to Florida Credit Union and helped them resurrect really their IT and build a project office. And again, always in tech, always loving the technology and the people that I was working with, developing people from, what were tellers maybe, or lenders that just really like technology. So I love watching people grow in that kind of area. Really stopped being hands-on probably about 10 years ago, and started to manage and love the management side. And then when I came back from a sojourn over in the South, I came back to the Northwest, could not find a credit union hiring a CIO. So I went to the city of Seattle as the deputy CTO. And that was a very different role. The entire role was nothing but relationship building for a 700-person IT department. And it was phenomenal, really, to create service and value at a public entity where there were just hundreds of people in tech. So that was fun, couple of years. And as happens with government and city, they cycle through mayors and cycle through technology. So when I bounced out of there, I came back to credit unions, and I know this is the landing zone for me. I feel like I can do a ton in tech, really grow the staff and team, into major career decisions for themselves, and then still have time for the boards and the STEM programs that I love.
That's very fulfilling journey that we have had, because I mean, I would again like to connect later and understand about how does the city of Seattle work, because it's a tech city and you're running the technology for that city itself. That itself sounds very sexy, right? And your experience so far, starting with credit unions, now back to credit unions, this is just phenomenal, right? I mean, you've seen the entire growth journey from, I would say, paper to paperless. Let's put it that way, right now.
Yeah.
So I would ask you a overarching question, Nancy, on this concept of paper to paperless, or rather, let's call it transformation, evolution, whatever you say, right? So how have you seen the technological ecosystem for credit unions, right, emerge across the years? Because there's a reason for it, right? I mean, if you talk about typical competitors nowadays, be it West Coast, East Coast, Central, all of us are facing stiff competition from the top banks, FinTechs, neobanks, challenger banks. I mean, with this number, that Chase invests around $15 billion every single year into technology.
Mhm.
Now, that's an astounding number. Now, credit unions obviously cannot afford that amount of investments because the models are different. You are not meant for just making money. It's more for the people helping people movement. But still, at the end of the day, we have to go and do a good enough job. So my question is, how have you seen the ecosystem emerging across the years, and with your experience of 30 years, how have you seen it changing?
Thank you. I would say it's been a challenge for credit unions, especially ones that are under the $5 billion mark, how to deliver at the speed that the banks are doing and be competitive, but also realize when it's time to just allow your partners to deliver it, and the 80% rule applies, right? It is good enough. And then you have table stakes, and you can still appeal to all of your members. But
Yeah.
what I see happening more than anything is strategic investments and dividing up the share of wallet between branch and tech. It used to be all branch, then it went all tech, high tech. Everybody was converting everything, transforming everything digitally. Now that we have the table stakes of digital, I think we're going back to a mixed. We really want the branch visibility and the footprint, but you have to stay up to speed on tech, whether that's through your partners, which it mostly is. A lot of the credit unions have tried to build, and a lot of them have gone back to buy. I'm a huge proponent of buy, not make, at the size we're at. If you're 10 billion, 15 billion, that's fantastic. Let's, go for it and build that personalized. But a lot of us buy it and plug it in and make it work. So that's what I see happening still. And the other big change is shorter term decisions, right? We're not doing 10, 15 years on a core anymore. We're signing 3 and 5 year contracts. So it's very cyclical, very fast moving. You're always looking at new partners and FinTechs. So that's new, and that's a different skill set, right? Looking at vendors and partners and knowing how to negotiate. That's a totally new skill set in credit unions.
So I think the ecosystem is completely changing. What you talked about is, I mean, the basic example of signing contracts for 3 to 5 years or 15 years, because the ecosystem is completely changing. I mean, starting from a core to a cloud native core, now even having a headless core, right, supporting the actual core. So the entire ecosystem is changing, and I think there'll be more changes I can say in the next 2 to 5 years. And with AI coming in, I think that there's a lot of change. We can talk about AI in the later part of the interview, which I feel very I would say hurt when people misuse and talk about just AI. So I'll ask some questions across those, but this is very very well received. Uh, Now, obviously, I'm asking you this question because you've seen, I mean, you wear both the lenses, right? One, you have kids, why will your kids or why will I go to a credit union? You wear that lens, one. Second, you also run technology for a credit union. You're also in the forefront of innovation for credit unions. So you wear both the hats. Uh, my question is, I can open a checking account in Chime like in 3 minutes, right? I mean, I can use Robinhood for investments. I have checking account in Chime. I can use SoFi. I can go to a Chase. The experiences are sexy. Let me put it that way. The experiences are good. The digital experience is good, right? So, what do you think? What will make Gen Zs or Zillennials like me, right, consider credit unions? I mean, a PFI is a very wrong word to use. We were discussing about, in the previous session that an average US consumer has 21 financial relationships, so not PFI. But what will make a Gen Z or a Zillennial consider a credit union to bank with, right? So why should they go to a credit union and bank with them?
Yep, that is a challenge we're all trying to answer right now. But my theory and my belief is understanding what credit unions are about is going to be what makes us the sticky one, the one that they consider top of wallet. If they can understand the compelling reason of a credit union, the cooperative nature, the fact that your money's working for you and you're giving it back to those around you instead of to, a big shareholder group or into, kind of the ether of a Chime or another totally online solution that they have no idea where it's going. That whole affinity and the ethics and the morals that come with it is a very attractive package. That, and we also, for the most part, are localized. So if we can appeal, there's always opportunity in the local community to bring in that generation of awareness of credit unions, what we can do, that we're more than just a car loan. That's the other big myth. When you meet some of the zillennials or millennials, is they think it's just a loan. They have no idea we do mortgages or investments or counseling. So again, being there for helping them, we have a motto through all ways of life, but it's true. You really need to be there where they're living at the moment and explain the difference of a cooperative. And on the tech side, you need to offer the table stakes. You cannot just do a minimal amount. You have to be able to compete, at least technology-wise, with what the banks are doing. That 3-minute online opening might be hard for us to attain because of all of our security and regulations, but maybe we're 7 minutes or 5 instead of 15 or 20, which is what it used to be.
Exactly. I think, getting to 5 even from 15, that's, I think, a huge winner because, again, for us, I believe, of people who are like, early 30s or late 20s, giving back is important. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've moved past the age of just capitalism for sure because, the lens at which we look at the world is pretty different than even in their late 40s or in the early 50s because we for us sustainability is important, for us helping people is important. I mean, I personally choose an organization to deal with, to bank with, even to be a consumer. Like, I mean, if I want to, for example, buy a pizza, I would want to go to a pizza chain that has an initiative of giving back
Yeah.
and not just not doing anything, right, for the ecosystem. So I think, yes, that I would say value proposition, if that can be put forward in a very succinct way, because for us, at least for my friends who are in Seattle specifically, right, trade unions are still might be ways of getting their first auto loan, getting their first mortgage. But how do you engage them? to actually bank with you, to actually consider that yes, I can park some money in a credit union, and that money is actually working for myself and working for the community, and it's not just passed on to the shareholders, which usually the large banks do. So yeah, this is really well taken, Nancy, and I think I want to just clip this small portion and share it with my friends, because this is something which all of us are looking at, and thank you for sharing these with you.
Uh,
Absolutely. Now, Nancy, I want to ask you about some advice to young female leaders. Now, obviously, now STEM is way easier than it was 30 years back when you started. It was really alien over there. Now, firstly, let me tell you, we are really proud of you that you've done it 30 years back, and now you're preaching about and motivating people, right, like us to take up STEM, both in the credit union ecosystem, outside the credit union ecosystem, right? But there's still a lot of people in the credit union ecosystem or aspiring to become credit union leaders who do not have backgrounds in STEM, right? But they still want to learn more, right? So, do you have any advice for young female leaders, or rather, young women out there in the credit union movement who want to pursue STEM, and what they can do about it?
Absolutely. So near and dear to my heart, I think when you have a calling to be on tech or engineering sciences of any type, you need to appreciate that calling and not try and squish it down, not try and
Yes.
do what you think you're supposed to do because you're in a certain body type, role type, or family dynamic, right? So for me, I mean, it was definitely something you struggle with at first when you walk in a room and you're the only female, or the only person that understands this or that. You have to accept that and not be afraid of it. It's okay to still be yourself and have your true personality, but if you're good at something, you should embrace it and just move forward. Keep going with it and learn. So that's the number one thing I would say. That, and don't change to become what you think you're supposed to be. So all of us that have struggled with trying to belong to a different group or a different economic class, or it can be even a family dynamic, you try and change, you morph, don't do it. It's my biggest advice. You will struggle for the rest of your life if you're not yourself. So be authentic, be you, and keep learning, but enjoy what you're good at. And if you're not good at it, try something else. Tech does not have to be, as I was mentioning to you earlier, it doesn't have to be hands-on. It turned out I was best at leading and teaching. Hands-on was great, learned for 10, 15 years that way, and it's a true appreciation for how tech works. But at some point, I turned the switch and I wanted to lead the people and let them learn all the new stuff. Maybe you're happier just learning, constantly learning and evolving every 2 years. So one thing in tech I can tell anyone, every 2 years you can change into a different role if you want. So yeah, just embrace who you are in the role. And if you love learning and constant change, you're going to love it. So those are my key areas. And then again, just don't be afraid to be who you are. People will embrace it. So
I think that's a key, mantra for tech, that change is inevitable, and it's very important to try out multiple things. I mean, your prime example, right? That you wanted to be an amazing program manager, and that was, I think, your journey towards being a CIO at a credit union, right? I mean, it's important to understand your strength and understand what you're good at, and just do it. Absolutely. I mean, it's very personal to me. I mean, I'm very similar to you. So I did engineering in computer science. Now, because of the way how we are taught engineering in universities, I never had an opportunity, Nancy, to pursue anything in program management or project management or even product management down the university. We didn't even interact with that. It was plain vanilla engineering. But I still preach, to my, I would say, university juniors. If you have an option to pursue that as a track, please go and do it. I mean, not everyone is meant to be the best developers of the world, right? But you can still run tech leadership in a really efficient way, because if you understand tech, that's really a very good takeaway for every one of us, right? You do not need to be programmers per se to excel in tech, but it's about the vision that you have.
yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can
Absolutely.
still deliver that service and do the cool, sexy stuff without having to code it. So yeah, there's just so many opportunities in tech.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people will have enormous amount of motivation hearing after this, because tomorrow is technology. Because if you do not embrace technology, it's difficult to become a leader in the ecosystem, because without technology, you cannot run a balance sheet. That's basic. That's period, right? I mean, you've got to understand tech. So that's very relevant, right? Now, again, this is a debatable topic about AI, etc. But again, I want to ask you one basic question, right? So, what do you think is the next big thing in the ecosystem, both on and off credit unions? What do you think?
Well, cannot get around it. It's going to be AI and how we use our data. We have so much information about each other and what's happening, and we're not using it to do predictive or to solve problems or to help people out. So we fully embrace AI here, but in our industry, it's a little lagging. We're very conservative, and I have peers of my own that say, no AI, no generative AI, we're not going to share data, we're not going to put our data in the cloud. We're well beyond that. We have to do that. We have to use large language models. We have to get to the point where the data is working for our members and can protect them. Fraud is just rampant. Even knowing what to do with your money, there's this innate fear of talking about money. There's shame in it. AI, I think, can help with all of that. To kind of normalize it and deliver answers in a way that we're serving, right? Not selling, but serving the members with the money that they have or the money that they could be making and growing with. So those are the big things. I think the other is for some of the smaller institutions that can't invest like we have to, understanding what that means in the scale of our industry. So how will we help the $50 million credit union and the $5 billion credit union? How can they help without acquiring? It doesn't have to be like that. We can share. I think some of our ecosystems will come together perhaps to be service providers for each other. That's another challenge that we're facing that the big banks are not. Community banks are definitely facing it. We're seeing a lot of them sell. So that's another challenge for us.
So, as if I understand well from your last statement, so what you're proposing is partnership between the large and the small credit unions, and helping the small credit unions, one, sustain, second, grow
Yes.
by sharing, or maybe having a shared pool of resources. I mean, just an example, uh, the, uh, the platform for digital banking, right? For example, so how can you actually go and help each other implement same kind of platform, or maybe the way how large credit unions are using data for better decisioning? Can those be passed on to the smaller credit unions, right? So that's the way how you're proposing. Okay, that
Absolutely.
that makes sense, Nancy, and that's a broader conversation across the movement itself, because it's again about people helping people. If it's people helping people, then definitely there has to be a synergy between the large and the smaller credit unions, and not just going and acquiring them. Right? So that's
Exactly.
really great. I mean, I want to be again respectful of your time. I mean, I think you're really almost past the amount of time that we've booked. So I want to just ask you one parting question, Nancy. Obviously, we'll have multiple questions, but we don't have time. You don't have time for that. So, but again, one quick question. Uh, Obviously, 2024 is ending on a better note than the way how it started. The rates have gone down. Lending is showing some improvement across. I mean, will show some improvement for Q4 is what my 2 cents are. But again, credit card balances are skyrocketing. I mean, it still hasn't gone down. Delinquencies might not be in the best shape right now. That's a very weird thing for credit unions, but still. So with the entire macroeconomic situation right now, right? Plus, you can see it from a lens of a technologist, plus someone who gets the credit union movement really well, right? So how do you think 2025 is looking like, and what are your 2 cents on it?
My 2 cents are just that. We have about 2 cents. It's very much a cautious moving forward. So it's a slow and a steady approach for us. We are loosening the purse strings in some areas. Like we are starting to get out there again and remodel and futurize some things, but conservative overall. And as you mentioned, what we are seeing in the loan loss and people trying to recover from debt, we're going to see that for the next few years. So we're looking at a lot of solutions around how we can help with personalized lending, but also advice and education, really making transparent what their obligations are, and at the same time advancing the digital side so they can do everything very easily. Payments is big. We need to make that seamless, make sure they don't go elsewhere where they're paying for payments and things. But
Yep.
it is a very slow and steady year. You can ask anyone, they have different predictions for how many rate cuts we're going to see. I think we're less concerned about that and the liquidity issues we had, and more concerned about service and support, at least for 25. And then 26 is we're thinking more positive. That could be another really big growth year.
Understand. So this was a really well crafted answer. I think 2025 is very debatable. Let's see what happens. Everything is changing. It's not. I mean, no one knows if there's another wave like AI coming in 2025 that disrupts the entire ecosystem. But this was really time well spent, Nancy. Again, we would like to thank you on behalf of the WCB family for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Nancy.